Hello, and welcome to Busy Bee Living. As you can see, the shop is kind of torn up. We did some, if you saw in the previous videos, we did some rearranging of some tools, and the shop is still being rearranged and kind of torn up right now. But we came across this. One of our friends wanted us to try to repair this frame. Specifically, this corner piece has really split, and you can see that the miter joints are starting to give way on this piece here. So we're going to try to restore it, but keep that kind of antique look to it. So the main thing we got to do is we got to address those miters. But there's some other stuff that we need to take into account here. It looks like from the previous here, as you can see here on the back, they put some particle board to try to reinforce this, and it looks like maybe even hold in this mirror. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and disassemble this picture frame, because also they don't want it to hang this way. They want us to pivot that. So we'll put the hanger somewhere on the frame where it's secured in a proper position, and then we'll redo the hanging wire itself. One thing though is this is going to go into a bathroom. So when it comes to the glues, I like to use that Type Bond 3 or some type of water resistant glue. It'll hold up better to the moistures or anything like that, and any splashing and quite a bit of cleaning that gets done on these. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to dive into this, take it apart and see what we're looking at just the frame wise to make sure the structure is all in sound, and then go from there. Now to get started, we just got to remove this holding plate here with just a few screws, and then grab yourself just a little container to put in the extra pieces that you're going to be taking off here, because these backers are held into place with about 5/8 inch little nails. We don't want to lose those and step on them or anything like that. So get yourself a little container so when you pop them off, you can easily put them in there and not lose track of them. But as you can see, because they're nailed in, they pop off quite easy. So when we go ahead and put this back, we're going to reuse those nails, but we're going to also add screws as well, just to make those backs more secure to the frame itself. Now with that done, we can go ahead and pop the mirror out. You might have, on your situation, a silicone seal there, so you might have to break that. Ours popped right off. So what you can see here is this is the joint that's given way, or the wood just broke right here, making this plate not be able to hold. See the flex right there? So we got a little bust right here too. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna fill this with that Type Bond, and then clamp that down, re-glue it into place, and then see if we can get this joint a little bit better here. So like we said, we're going to address that crack first, and what we're going to do is we're going to take that wood glue and work it right into the crack itself. We want it to go all the way through. Now when this dries, this will actually be stronger than the wood itself was previously, so don't worry about that. The glue strength is quite strong. You can see tests that were done on other YouTube channels that really show the holding strength of this. But we want to make sure we keep it nice and clean, because remember that mirror is going to have to sit in there, and if you don't do this, you're going to have a lot more cleanup and sanding in the long run. So we're just going to go ahead and bring some clamps in, and as the squeeze out of the glue happens, we're going to go ahead and use our little scraper tool there to clean it off, as well as with some rags. Now we'll just let it sit there and let the glue set up, and once it's done, we can pop the clamps off, and you can see how much that crack has just completely closed up with the wood glue. With the crack complete, now it's going to be the tricky part, and that is going to be clamping up this frame, as there's decorative edges on there, so we can't just go ahead and use our regular clamps. And I cannot find my strap clamp anywhere, so if somebody borrowed it and has it, I'm looking for it. Well, instead we just use this ratchet strap and work it around the frame itself, and tighten it down. Now when you do that, you can see you actually might be pulling it out of square. So what we're going to do is we're going to use another little clamp just to hold down the edge as we clamp down. Now I know you're going to notice in the background the other side popped up. Don't worry, we put some weight on it. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to use this construction adhesive to fix this crack. We went with this instead of just straight wood glue because it's going to give us stronger joint holding. Especially with that metal plate, it will actually grab onto that as well, and it will really help us close this gap up. Now when you're doing that, all I did was work it into the crack itself and filled it in, and then cleaned it up again with that little silicone scraper. And this will keep everything nice and clean and a lot less sanding in the long run. Now here's a little bit better look until I put my hand in the way, but you can see how we're just kind of reforming it just to make it look really nice when we're done. Another little tip here is put a little rag below it. In case anything drips down, you do not want to seal this frame down to your workbench. Moment of truth. And as you can see, that worked quite well. So we went ahead and we flipped it over, and now we're going to use that same construction adhesive and work it into the joint on the back side. And just follow the same process that you did on the front. Now once that's all nice and dry, we're going to give the whole frame just a light sand down. This is just to knock the sheen of the paint down, so when we go to repaint it, it will actually grab better. If you don't do this, you could end up peeling off the entire paint that you've put on it. Because it's such a high gloss on these, it really is a difficult surface for paint to adhere to. So that's why the sanding is really, really important. Also, once we're done, we're going to come back with a tack cloth and wipe up all that dust, because once again, that is another surface that would ruin a paint. You don't want to leave the dust on the frame. You want to get all that off with a nice tack cloth. Now our project here is ready for its paint coat. We're going to do a couple of these, and we're going to do it in gloss. Once again, because it's a bathroom, the higher sheen of a paint actually protects it more against the moisture and the cleaning products that's going to be used against it. So that's why we went ahead and we went with the gloss look. Also, the gloss look gives it a little bit more antique look because, as you know, things that were made back in the day used high gloss oil finishes, and this is the closest look you can get to that. Now that the paint's all dry, we can flip over the frame. We can add a little bead of silicone here, and that will help secure the mirror to the frame. Now I can't stress enough how much a good caulk gun makes a huge difference. You can see here how easy it is to run this bead with a better quality caulk gun, so don't cheap out on that. Get a good one. Instead of those cheap metal ones, you'll save yourself a headache and you'll thank yourself. Now we're just going to run our finger along here and smooth it out. That way we can help avoid some of the squeeze out. We'll go ahead and clean up anything once it's all set, but this will help you alleviate some of that. Now while that's setting up, we can take our backer board and put it back into place.
and line it up so we have the pieces back to where they were previously. Now we are going to reuse these nails, but we don't want to just rely on those nails. So come on down to our screw drawer here, and we were able to find some 5/8 screws that seem to be the same size as these nails, so we know we're not going to go too deep into the frame. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert these screws into the previously nailed holes. This is why I was able to get away without pre-drilling. If you're putting it into a fresh area, you're going to want to pre-drill this so you do not crack the frame. You don't want to get to this point and damage it. Luckily though, we were able to line it up with all the nail holes and then insert these screws into those. And this will help better secure these back plates to the frame. So now that we have the screws in there, we have these nails, so we're just going to go ahead and use them. Now, it's not completely necessary, but like I said, we had them on hand, so we might as well use them. So we're just going to tap a few of these nails back into place. So now that everything's complete, we can flip this back over, and we're just going to use a little razor blade scraper to clean up any squeeze out that we had from that silicone that's on the mirror. And as you can see, it comes off quite easy. So now we're in the home stretch and we just need to add the hangers onto the back of the frame. I measured down 4 inches and then I just use a pencil to mark 3 holes where I'm going to pre-drill for the screws to go into. Now unfortunately 3 of the screws from the one side were completely missing. On a good note though, I had 3 in my spare screw bin that were the same exact size as the originals. So we were able to just go ahead and give a little flag here so we don't drill too far into the frame. And now we're able to come back and pre-drill those holes. Now with the holes drilled, we can come back and we can secure the hangers to the back of the frame. One note here is though, you can see that I'm using a drill to put these screws in. A lot of times I actually like to use a hand screwdriver instead. That way you don't, risk yourself over screwing in here, stripping out anything, but that's up to you. Now we're just going to use the existing wire that was on there. We're going to go ahead and retighten down one side, measure it back out because we need to cut it a little bit shorter. We can go ahead and secure that down by putting a little twist in it. This is a pretty thick wire, so the twist should hold. But I also like to put a little piece of electrical tape on the back of these wires right where the tip kind of shows out. That way it kind of helps not damage the wall as much that it's hanging on, but also can kind of help secure that twist from coming undone.
Well, that's a wrap on the restoration of this framed mirror. It was a little bit difficult of a process, specifically trying to clamp these edges with these decorative finishes on them. And that strap came in handy and worked quite well. As you can see, it really sealed up everything. And also using that construction adhesive rather than the wood glue. The wood glue wouldn't have done what we needed to get done here. But the frame is nice and sturdy again. We reattached the mirror directly to the frame with that silicone and then put the backing back on and had that hanging wire ready to go. So this is ready to go back into its new home, and it still has that kind of older antique kind of rustic look to it. There's still a little bit of cracking from the old paint peeling. We did sand a little bit of that off to loosen it, but we left areas so you could see that it was kind of aged and then painted over top of, which gives it this really kind of cool look. As well as with the color, it's going to match the area quite well, and it's going to be a nice little feature piece now. So instead of trashing this broken frame that you come across, this is a way that you might be able to restore it and put it to some good use. So if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. We'd love to earn your subscription, as it really does help us out as a channel. And if you're one of our returning viewers, thank you so much for your support. It really does help us out as a channel, and the growth is amazing, and it keeps us motivated to keep doing things like this. So thank you very much. So until next time, thanks for buzzing by. You go make some dust.